Okay, so there's a lady on the internet that is catching a lot of flack, but I think that it's not her fault. So the lady in question, as you can see here, is apparently a Democrat senator, state senator, I believe, um, from I don't know where, but her name is Janie Ward Engelking. Maybe that's how you say her name. Anyway, Miss Johnny, we'll call her. She's causing quite the upset. I'm pretty sure it's died down by now. This clip was surfaced a few days ago. Um, I don't know exactly when she said this. She could have said this years ago, for all I care. But anyway, this clip was shared recently, and a lot of people who the usual suspect are not very happy about it because she was saying the line that is upsetting people is right here, as you can see from the libs of TikTok, and that's the line that says, "quote When your children walk into our classrooms, they become ours." Those kids in that classroom, they're ours. They're ours too. So that's kind of a soundbite. But let's hear kind of a little bit of context of what she had to say, and then I'll come back and explain why I think she is not to blame.
We stand instead of parents.
Hmm?
When your children walk into our classroom, they become ours. And we listen to their fears, we dry their tears, we celebrate their successes, and yes, we find a new way when they fail. And as you know, throughout this country, teachers have stood in the line of fire
Hmm?
to shield your children. And they would do it in a heartbeat because those kids in that classroom, they're ours. They're ours too.
Okay, so you get it. Um, as I don't know, she sounds like she's an educator by background or a teacher. She sounds like she has a teacher in her background. So I didn't do any kind of research on her to know that kind of basic information. I should, but I didn't. But from what the way she's talking, sounds like she's speaking from experience. She's talking in the first kind of person. She is currently a senator. Um, it's not unusual that from being a teacher, she wanted to go and make an even bigger difference in the legislature, and so here she is as a lawmaker now. Totally uh, normal, happens all the time on both sides of the aisle. So she's talking from experience. She's talking as a teacher. I would argue she's probably advocating for something on behalf of the teachers unions, something along those lines. Um, so for her, and that's for any teacher really, and these people mean well. We have to understand where they're coming from. They mean well. I genuinely believe that. And I believe that in part because I know people personally who are teachers or who used to be teachers. And this is a calling, right? Which is why, for me, I see it as a ministry that should never be in the hands of the government because it is a calling. You are asking someone to step in that capacity. And this is why for me and many other increasingly now millions of Americans, we think parents should be the one to play that role for their children, at least in the early years, right? From 0 to somewhere around 15, 16 years old. It should be parents, right? But I understand that it's not always possible for parents. I have said, even in my own life, that we're currently, right now, in 2026, still trying to figure out how we're going to go about it because we don't have a bunch of money just laying around, right? This is something that we're pre committed. They're not going to government school. So now what? Um, so she's talking from experience. She's talking as a teacher or from her former kind of experience. And in her mind, when the kids come into the classroom, those children, uh, as a woman, and probably as a parent herself, maybe, but she doesn't have to be. Her kind of maternal instincts kick in. She's there to help the children. She's helping raise those children with you, right? That's the job. You can say they're professionals all you want. At the end of the day, these are frontline ministers who are in the front line with your children to help you raise them up. When you put your 6, 7, 8, 8-year old in that classroom, you're asking them to help you raise that kid up. That's why we say education is disciple. You just can't separate the two. Because even as they teach how to read and how to count, they're also correcting behaviors. They're also imparting certain values and a worldview. They're also sharing, teaching, helping your children to value certain things and to not value other things. It's inevitable. And they spend so much time with the kids that, yeah, I see how they would think, hey, these are our kids too. You're asking us to be responsible for such a precious cargo all day long. The kids are going to be kids. They're doing their own thing. But these are adults who are entrusted with these souls, these human beings, these precious human beings. So I don't see why it's difficult for people to recognize what's happening here. What's happening is actually pretty natural. And a lot of these people mean well, by the way. They're off in their worldview, they're off in kind of the system that they represent is off. But at the end of the day, we cannot deny the real fact, and that is you, as a parent, when you put your kid on that school bus or when you pull up at the schoolhouse and drop off your kid, you're inviting these people into a sacred space that God assigned to you, which is why if you're going to do it, if you must, it has to be with people with whom you agree on the direction for which God says for you to send your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, not in the nurture and admonition of career or the state. No. So I think the fight here, if we must have it, has to be to finally show parents, hey, this is the reality. You're inviting these people into your life on this level. Co-parent These people, some of them spend more time with your children than you in these years from K through 12. They're spending more time with your children than you do, which means they're having more of an impact on your child more than you do when it counts. And so, yeah, they feel these are their children too, especially when we say, oh, this is a public school, this is a community thing, it's a village, it takes a village, we're all in this together, we're doing this together. What are we doing exactly? Co-parenting. And I'm not even a parenting expert. I am nowhere. I should never be allowed anywhere near a parenting class as me as the facilitator. Never. I have a lot to learn. But that's a basic fact that it's just basic. When you invite people in on that level, you are co-parenting with them. You may not see it as co-parenting with that specific teacher, but you're co-parenting with the system. That's what people need to get. We have to ditch the system. And of course, I say we, my family and I, we're not depending on the system. We're just not going there. But I feel my job is like Moses, you know, going, having been out of Egypt, he's going back to Egypt to tell people, hey, let God's people go. That's how I feel. I feel like one of those prophets that's telling the people, hey, you gotta go a different way. This is why. So I wanted to share this video to say, well, if you partner with the state and you give your children to them, you entrust them, you invite them into this sacred space. They have set up a ministry of education. And in some country, that's what it's called. The Department of Education. In some countries, it's called the Ministry of Education. So these are ministers. And so you've agreed to this contract with them. Okay. And so the contract says that you're going into a arrangement where you're co-parenting with them. And it's only natural for them to feel, because that's what the message is. These are not your children by yourself. These children belongs to all of us. That's why you put them to the state to educate. The state is educating them to think themselves as wards of the state, as belonging to the state. So don't be surprised when they say, these are our children too. It's only natural. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.